Hey guys, Hippopotamus here, back with another Division 2 build video, and today I'm going to be showing you my PvP bleed build, Ridgway's Pride. So we'll start off the normal way and go to the specializations table, talk through that, and then we'll do the other little bits as normal. So to start off with, I am using the Technician on this build. Now there is no particular special reason for this, it's just that I enjoy having the passive extra skill tier, which is going to make my defender drone that little bit more potent and protect me that little bit more. EMP grenades are quite nice. The main things is just having synergizing weapons, and that's pretty much the top and tail of it, really. We're not gaining much from there. What I would like to say in this video is, if you want to use any of the other specializations, you definitely can. It's something that won't really have too much of an effect on it. So the firewall might be a good choice. Gunner again, survivalist. These are all, good and reasonable choices. I just prefer the extra skill tier for my drone, which I'll go through in just a second. Okay, so let's go have a look at the build, and then we'll benchmark the range. So for this build, I'm using the CTAR 21, but any high fire rate assault rifle is good. I tend to use anything like the FAMAS or something like that that's just got a really high fire rate, because when we put bleed damage on target, we have got a small window to take advantage of that extra damage. So yeah, we're going to use something with high fire rates, as we'll see in just a second. The assault rifle I'm using has got assault rifle damage, health damage, and damage to targets out of cover. Great, exactly what we want. And we also have the talent Sadist. So this amplifies weapon damage by 30% to bleeding enemies. Okay, so after 4 kills, you're also going to apply bleed, but we don't really need that because of Ridgways. For my next weapon, I'm using the Vector SBR 9mm. Again, you'll notice 1380 RPMs. That's exactly what we're looking for, high RPMs, to get that window of damage when a target is bleeding. So with this one, I'm using SMG damage, crit chance, and damage to targets out of cover. I also have the talent Sadist as before. Now, as I've previously stated in one of my last videos, I'm using the Busy Little Bee, and again, I'll go through the reason why I'm using this, because it does have a good talent that we can use that can really help us out, but I'll go through that again in just a moment when I hit the range. So, starting with our build, I'm using strikers here, so the first piece isn't going to really give us anything, but second piece is going to give us weapon handling, which is good. That's reload speed, accuracy. It's a combination of reload speed, accuracy, stability, swap speed, etc., etc. So nice handling talent for us. I have a core attribute of armor, and then I have crit damage and crit chance slotted in the mod. I'm using a piece of Grupo Sombra, which is giving me 13% extra crit hit damage. It gives me weapon damage, crit hit chance, and then a crit hit chance mod in the back. Now, I'm using this with Wicked, so what this does is, when I apply a status effect on a target, it gives me 18% extra weapon damage for 20 seconds. Now, I was using the Anarchist Cookbook, which gives you status effect, but it's not really needed. We still get an opportunity of a window to damage a target when they're on bleed. What I'm trying to stack here is crit chance, crit damage, to get as much burst damage as possible once the target is on bleed. It's not the bleed that we're looking to increase, it's our damage that we're looking to increase. Okay, for our second piece, I have a Striker's Glove, and again, this is going to give us the weapon handling that we were talking about. This is rolled with armor and 12% crit hit damage. For the chest, most important piece is the Ridgway's Pride. So this is rolled with weapon damage, crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and crit hit damage mod slotted into it. What it's going to give us is bleeding edge. So shooting enemies within 15 meters applies a bleed to the target. So that's going to proc our Wicked on our backpack, giving us that 18% extra damage. We also get repairs from this. It's very, very unusual that you'll ever get a significant amount from it. But each target that you put on bleed is going to give you repairs from anywhere from 3 to 48%, depending on how many targets you've got. In PvP, there has been a couple of occasions where I've ran into a small confined room, like a stairwell, and shot like 3 agents, 4 agents, and got like 24% armor regen, which is crazy. But the value that you're going to get from this your mileage may vary. It sometimes can help you, and sometimes it does absolutely nothing. So I wouldn't depend on that helping you out, every time. So yeah, so the next piece I'm using is another Striker's piece. This is going to give us the 15% fire rate. Again, very important for this build because fire rate is important to us, because once that bleed window opens up, we only have a short time to take advantage of it and put as much damage on target as possible. Okay, so I'm using armor and 12% crit hit damage. For my last piece, I'm using, again, another piece of Strikers. So this is going to give us Strikers Gamble. So effectively, this is going to give us 0.65% extra damage, stacking up to 100 times. And you're going to lose 1 stack a second between 0 and 50, and 2 stacks between 50 and 100. It's not always easy to get Strikers fully charged up when you have the chest. So we've avoided the chest because we're using the bleed build anyway, and the backpack, we don't really care about increasing the stack damage. We have an extra bit of damage from Wicked. So effectively, we want to build stacks as quickly as possible, and just put damage down range as quick as possible. So again, another reason why we'll be using as high a fire rate as possible. The quicker we can get this bonus, the quicker we can get this stacked up, the more damage we're putting out. Okay, so for my skills, I have a holographic distraction decoy. The reason for that is, again, hiding your nameplate. Quite essential in the DZ when you go in rogue, or if you're going to run into a group where there's a couple of them and you don't want them to see your nameplate. Yeah, quite important. I'm usually not without this or a pulse in the DZ. Again, we have an extra skill tier. You can see that it's a skill tier 1, and that is going to give me some extra duration, health, and threat, which again only really works against AI, but still handy all the same. Now, this is the reason why I've taken the extra skill tier in this case, is because I am 4 blue and 2 red. I'm sat at about 1.5 million armor, which is roughly about the average for what most people run in the DZ, that run sort of like part damage, part sort of blue cores. So I'm looking to try and make my defender drone protect me that little bit more, and it's going to give me an extra 5% damage reduction. So in PvP, I'm taking 15.7% less damage. Again, we've got those with the damage reduction mods in, so that's going to help us a little bit. The EMP grenade is quite handy if players are using skills, if they're throwing down hives or any other skills that they might be using. This is a great way to shut them off. Again, if they have a defender drone, the same as what we do, we can turn theirs off and keep ours at the same time. So yeah, it's quite handy to have. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the range, and then we can check our stat sheet. So you can see the range is on heroic, so we can benchmark our numbers as always. And let's just go in and take a look at our stat sheet. Okay, so looking at the stats, we have Sadist on both weapons, which should be no surprise using Ridgways. The Busy Little Bee, again, this is something, again, I'll go through in just a moment, but if you use this in the right way, can potentially help you beat the first target that you run into, but it requires some preparation. You can see our stats on our weapon here. So this is for the CTAR. Again, not quite hitting 60% on the assault rifle, but tend to use this when targets are just that little bit further out. 49% is just fine. On our SMG, we've got 60% crit chance and 162 crit damage, which is absolutely brilliant. Moving on to our weapons damage numbers. Okay, we have the talents Wicked and Bleeding Edge. Remember, these two synergize with each other because I'm able to proc status effect just by bidding 15 meters of an enemy and shooting at them. So quite easy to grab that extra damage. Again, we're using 4 pieces of Striker to get the full set, a piece of Grupo, and that's it for the moment. We're sat around 1.4, 1.5 million armor, depending if you put expertise ranks into your gear. So we're going to be roughly about 1.5, which is there about the average for the DZ. Holographic distraction, again, I'm in the range, so the cooldown numbers will vary. Okay, so onto the build. How does it work? What does it do? So the idea of this build is to try and get into close and just put as much damage on a target as possible, allowing you to bleed them. So let's just move the name target here and get some benchmarking numbers. So we can see once we proc that bleed, we have a small window before it runs out, before we can put the damage on them again, and it takes a second. So this is the window that I'm talking about. When I talk about a window, you can see that that's a very small window before you can proc it again. So the reason why we need to have fire rate is because proccing that bleed is important. So you can see our numbers slowly tick up here. And when we're fully stacked, you can see that we'll be hitting for about 7,000 in the head on a crit, and about 5 in the chest. If we're very close, obviously we have the SMG. So, a couple of things. Obviously, with our skills, we have a decoy. Now, that's going to help us close that gap because we are using close-range weapons to get into close to do the damage. So, that's going to hopefully keep us hidden enough that we're going to be able to close that gap and get into the range that suits us. Again, also, the defender drone is something, because we are fighting up close and we're not really super tanky, it's going to give us that tiny little bit of extra survivability when we're face trading with an enemy. So quite important. And again, the reason why I've taken the extra skill tier is because I need that extra defense when I'm up close. Okay, so onto the pistol. What was I talking about? So, for those that don't know, again, the busy little bee, when we take a look at it, what it does is it gives you stacks when you shoot targets. So you put a mark on a target and it gives you a stack. And it allows you to do up to 10 stacks, I believe, which is going to give us 20% weapon damage per stack we get. And then once we change weapon, it's going to increase all that damage onto our main weapons. So the way to use this, in effect, is to run to a landmark when you come out of a checkpoint or the safe house or whatever, and just shoot the enemies one time, get that mark on them, and you can see in the bottom there, the little B icon, you can see that we're charging this weapon up, right? So what we're going to do is, we're just going to mark all these enemies. Let's just get rid of this enemy dead quick, just to benchmark. Okay, we'll get rid of that one. And now you can see that the B icon is full, okay? So what that's going to mean for us is that when we switch weapon, now all of a sudden we'll be getting crazy numbers. And it's going to be, in effect, like 200% extra weapon damage. Now, the window for that is small, but if you can get that off, you just run around with the pistol, and when you get to an enemy, like a rogue or a non-rogue as it might be, you just switch your weapon, and it's going to allow you to burn that first target really, really quickly, and then move on to the next. So that's the reason why I use the busy little bee. The other things to explain is just the EMP grenades. Again, if an enemy's got skills out or they're using a drone, we can just lob an EMP grenade and get rid of those skills. Again, something that I find quite important is on this particular build, medkits over time can be nice, they can help you push, but in this particular case, when I'm using a damage window, I want to have a full medkit. I don't want to wait for that medkit to heal me over time. I want to be able to get a full medkit straight away and then push up, put the damage on them, and then get out. So, yeah, okay. So effectively, that's the build. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one.